The topic of my development plan in my assignment 1 is learning and teaching in large classes. The table of content comprises of introduction, challenges, overcoming challenges, development plan, and conclusion. Teaching a large class poses many challenges both in and out of the classroom. In the classroom, large enrollment can promote student disengagement and feelings of alienation, eroding students' sense of responsibility, and may lead to behavior that both reflects and promotes lack of engagement. Also, logistics in terms of class management, class arrangement, and control are key and can also be challenged when teaching a large class. Thus, large classes have been a problem in facilitating effective learning and teaching among diverse people of background, disadvantaged students, and this can equally wear off away inclusiveness in learning, teaching, and assessment. Challenges. University regulatory authority in my country put the ratio of a teacher to students to 1:30. However, in my institution, particularly in my department, the ratio varies from 1:135 to 1:150, thus created large classes that is met with multifaceted challenges as presented in figure 1. We have large classes which is bedeviled with lecture, student disengagement, assessment stroke, feedback mechanism, and student performance. Regarding lecture, the pedagogical method employed is tutor-centered and encourage rote learning. Student engagement, students are more disengaged, alienated, and disadvantaged students are not taken care of. Inclusiveness is not part of it. In terms of assessment, we have two types, the continuous assessment and examination assessment. All these assessments are structured on courses taught and not on learning outcomes. Assessment is more of summative and not formative in nature. The feedback mechanism is in prose form and the feedback are based on grade. Equally, the feedback is summative in nature. Equally, the performance of the student in terms of the challenges, the cumulative effect of pedagogical methods employed by tutors up to assessment result into students being alienated to learning, poor performance of students, and learning style employed by the student, which vary from deep, surface, strategic, as will be discussed in section 3 of the presentation, which is overcoming challenges. Overcoming these challenges requires research through literature, theories, practice, and though the challenges are multidimensional, however, focus will be on lecture and students' engagement. Literature. In terms of lecture, several studies have acknowledged the lopsidedness of lecture in learning and teaching, which include lecture to be teacher-centered. It involved transferring notes to notebooks, telling and transmitting notes, retentive and memorizing, which equally is of sponge soaking. In terms of engagement, while encouraging students' engagement, it can be challenging in any class in learning and teaching. Professor Mirelli Wema observed that the following are highly significant: faculty authority perception, tutor perception, and peer judgment. Faculty authority perception, this involves students tutor see tutor as arbiter of knowledge, tutor's argument not meant to be challenged. And in terms of behavior, tutor's behavior towards class is very, very key. And this has to be known so that much is needed to promote engagement. Engagement, peer judgment. The fear of peer judgment among students equally disengaged students, and this leads to a disincentive for many students in the large classes. Theoretical evidence. An extract below showed the fear of one of the international students sampled in learning and teaching scripts study of Welikala 2013. In the script, which I quote, the student states that I had no idea of writing on our own as they do it here, that is in the UK. We always reproduce what the teacher dictated to us. Writing was never developed this way back home. We were trained to do essays after memorizing certain things. I want to learn this way of writing, the way of writing in the UK, and it is a big challenge to me. On that basis of the extract, 40 students, comprising 20 male and 20 female students of 300 and 400 levels of my department were randomly sampled to get feedback on how effective is my teaching. Also, the approaches to learning using Martin and Sturgeon 1976 deep and service learning approach and Tistu et al. 1979 strategic learning approach. The feedback are shown in figure 2 to figure 5. In figure 2, which has to do with student learning orientation, looking at the figure, deep learning, the highest response from the students engaged in deep learning, while the lowest lies in strategic learning orientation. In figure 3, which looks at student learning orientation by gender, it is clear that in terms of deep learning, female students engage more in deep learning, while their male counterparts engage more on surface learning. Figure 4 shows students' learning orientation by level. Interestingly, deep learning, 300 level students and 400 level students rank highest for deep learning, while the lowest is found in strategic learning orientation. Engagement in strategic learning approach appears the least, and the final grade of a TC 1979 approach appears the highest of student choice of learning, as shown in figure 5. The feedback showed that students still engage in deep learning, surface, and strategic learning. Engagement of any of the approaches is towards final grade, followed by teacher's method of teaching. The feedback showed that there is the need to review pedagogical method and assessment method that is based on grade in my department. Practical solution. There should be a shift from teacher-centered to student-centered, use of various pedagogical methods, learning and teaching within a small group, which will promote inclusiveness and take care of diverse learner, break of classes into 10 to 20 minutes of segments, which will encourage engagement in engagement system. Equally, the use of minute paper, which involve classroom assessment technique that will promote engagement. The teacher should learn how to use student name, establish rapport with students. Engagement in peer review is equally important. Development plan. The development plan will be anchored on Evans 2015 model of situating pedagogy with some modification. Figure 6 highlights the nested nature of the pedagogy in higher education, and this is not limited to local influence, but entails faculty, institution, national and international policy initiative within higher education. The nested pedagogic nature in the development plan will be limited to local needs that involve my department, the faculty, and my institution. Student engagement will be viewed from discipline requirements, student and teacher disposition, and nature of the pedagogy, which include content curriculum approaches, active approaches to learning, assessment approaches, experiential approaches, inquiry of students as researcher, critical reflection that has to do with teachers and technology usage, e-learning, blended learning, and so on. Student role as co-developer, co-tutor, and co-assessor will equally be looked into. Similarly, lab classes in my institution will continue to increase. This is because the institution is struck with increasing bill, decreased subvention from government, and regulated student fees. Increasing generated internal revenue, partly tied to increase in student enrollment. Thus, effective learning, teaching, and assessment of students is a priority that cannot be negotiated. This requires proposition of development plan of stakeholder, which include curriculum development committee in the department, faculty, and director of academic planning of the institution. Preferences are hereby stated.